The camera flash lit up the room as Jodi Arias adjusted her lens, moving around to capture the perfect angle. At 27, she had a pretty face framed by long brown hair and eyes that seemed to hold something intense behind them. Photography was her passion, her escape from a life that never quite matched her dreams. Money was always tight, and she moved from job to job, city to city, looking for something that felt like home. Travis Alexander stood tall among the crowd at the business convention in Las Vegas. At 30, he had built a successful career as a motivational speaker and insurance salesman. His smile charmed everyone around him. People liked Travis. They trusted him. He talked about success, about God, about building a good life. Their eyes met across the crowded room. Jodi lowered her camera. Travis stopped mid-sentence. Something electric passed between them. Later that night, they talked for hours in the hotel bar. Travis told her about his Mormon faith, his large family, his plans for the future. Jodi shared stories of her childhood in California, her dreams of becoming a famous photographer, the broken relationships she left behind. They were different in many ways, but something pulled them together like magnets. "I don't usually do this," Travis whispered as he invited her to his room. That night changed everything. Their bodies connected with an intensity that surprised them both. For Travis, it was a moment of weakness, a slip from his religious values. For Jodi, it was the beginning of everything she ever wanted. They parted ways the next morning with promises to stay in touch. Travis returned to his home in Arizona. Jodi went back to California, but the distance didn't cool their connection. They texted constantly, they spent hours on the phone, and within 2 months, Jodi made a decision that worried her friends. "I'm moving to Arizona," she told her roommate while packing her things. "Travis and I are meant to be together." "But you barely know him," her roommate said. "This seems fast." Jodi didn't listen. She never listened when her heart was set on something. 2 weeks later, she arrived at Travis's doorstep with all her belongings. At first, it was perfect. They couldn't keep their hands off each other. Travis showed her around town, introduced her to his friends, helped her find photography jobs. But his friends noticed things that made them uncomfortable. How Jodi's eyes never left him. How she checked his phone when he wasn't looking. How she would show up places without being invited. "I'm worried about you," said Mark, Travis's best friend, after a dinner where Jodi had glared at the waitress for smiling too much at Travis. "She seems intense." "She's just passionate," Travis defended her. "She loves hard." But in private, even Travis felt uneasy sometimes, like when he found Jodi reading his emails, or when she cried for hours after he mentioned hanging out with female friends. "You're all I have," she told him, holding on to him so tight it almost hurt. "I moved here for you. I gave up everything for you." The sex kept him coming back. In bed, Jodi became someone else. Wild, uninhibited, willing to do things that excited and shocked him. Things that made him feel guilty in the light of day, things that went against his church teachings. They recorded their intimate moments sometimes, a dangerous game that thrilled and scared him. 5 months into their relationship, Travis stood in his bathroom, looking at his reflection. He loved Jodi's passion, her body, the way she made him feel. But something wasn't right. The way she looked through him sometimes like she could see everything inside him. The way her love felt like it might swallow him whole. He didn't know it then, but the clock had already started ticking. The first big fight happened on a Tuesday night. Travis came home late from a business dinner. Jodi sat in the dark living room, waiting. "Who was she?" Jodi asked, her voice too calm. "Who was who?" Travis set down his keys, confused. "The woman you were with. I called your office. They said you left hours ago." Travis sighed. It was a work dinner, Jodi, with clients. Men and women. Jodi stood up, showed him her phone. On it was a picture of Travis sitting at a restaurant table with 3 men and 2 women. "Then why didn't you tell me about the women?" Travis stared at her. "Did you follow me? I needed to know the truth." That night, they screamed at each other for hours. Plates broke. Doors slammed. In the end, they fell into bed together, their anger turning into rough passion that left marks on both their bodies. The next morning, Travis told her they needed space. "This isn't healthy," he said. "What we're doing, it's not right." Jodi cried, begged him not to leave her. "I'll change," she promised. "I'll be better." For a week, things improved. Jodi tried to be what Travis wanted, less needy, less suspicious. But it was like holding her breath underwater. Eventually, she had to come up for air. She found a text on his phone from a woman named Lisa. It said, "Miss you. Can't wait for Sunday." When Travis came home, Jodi was cutting vegetables in the kitchen, knife moving fast and hard against the cutting board. "Who's Lisa?" she asked without looking up. Travis's face changed. He went through my phone again. "Who is she?" "A friend from church." "You're sleeping with her?" "No, I'm not. And even if I was, Jodi, we're not exclusive. We've talked about this. I care about you, but I'm not ready for the kind of relationship you want." The knife stopped moving. "We live together. You moved here, you moved in. I never asked for that." That night, Jodi slashed the tires on Travis's car. When he confronted her, she denied it, her face innocent, confused. "Why would I do that?" she asked. "I love you." Travis knew the truth, but he couldn't prove it. And later that night, when she came to his bed wearing nothing but a smile, he let her in again. Their relationship changed after that. Travis started keeping secrets. He told his friends they had broken up, but he still saw Jodi in private. The physical connection between them was too strong to break. But he made rules. No more living together, no promising the future, no expectations. Jodi agreed to everything, but inside she burned. She started keeping a journal of all his movements. She recorded their phone calls without telling him. She took pictures of him sleeping. One night, after Travis fell asleep, Jodi went through his emails. She found messages to a woman named Maria. They were planning a trip to Mexico together. In the emails, Travis called Maria beautiful and the woman of my dreams. Jodi read the words over and over until they burned into her brain. She looked at Travis sleeping peacefully. She imagined him saying those words to another woman, touching another woman the way he touched her. Something cold and hard formed in her chest. The next day she acted normal. She smiled, kissed him goodbye, told him she had a photography job out of town. Travis looked relieved that she was leaving. "We'll talk when you get back," he said, not meeting her eyes. Jodi knew what that meant. He was going to end things for real this time. He was choosing Maria. He was throwing away everything they had built together. As she drove away from his house, Jodi's mind raced with images. Travis and Maria on a beach in Mexico, Travis and Maria getting married, Travis and Maria growing old together. Each image cut like a knife. "If I can't have him," she whispered to herself, "no one will." She started planning that very day. The plan formed in Jodi's mind like a photograph developing in chemical solution, slowly at first, then all at once, sharp and clear. She drove away from Travis's house that day but didn't go far. She parked at a coffee shop and opened her laptop. First, she checked Travis's email again. She had his password. She had all his passwords. The trip to Mexico with Maria was scheduled for 2 weeks from now. Jodi read through their messages again, feeling the hate grow inside her like a living thing. Next, she called her grandfather. The old man lived alone in a small house in Northern California. "Hi, Grandpa," she said, her voice sweet and normal. "How are you feeling?" They talked about his garden, his health, the weather. Then Jodi said, "Remember that gun you keep in your nightstand? The one that belonged to Grandma." "Why are you asking about that?" her grandfather said. "I was thinking about getting one for protection. I'm living alone now, and sometimes I get scared." Her grandfather told her about the gun, a .25 caliber, and how to use it safely. Jodi listened, taking notes. A week later, when her grandfather reported the gun missing to police, he would never connect it to Jodi's visit 2 days after their phone call. He would never imagine his sweet granddaughter taking it from his nightstand drawer while he napped in his armchair. After getting the gun, Jodi rented a car. She didn't want to use her own for what came next. She paid cash and used a fake name. She bought gas cans too, so she wouldn't have to stop for gas in Arizona. No paper trail, no witnesses. She dyed her hair from brown to blonde. She borrowed license plates from a car in a junkyard. She practiced what she would say when she saw Travis again. All this time, she kept texting him like nothing was wrong. "Miss you," she wrote. "Hope your week is going well." Travis' responses got shorter, less frequent. He was pulling away. The trip to Mexico was getting closer. Jodi called Travis's phone and left a happy message. "Just checking in. Can't wait to see you soon." But he didn't call back. That night, she sat on her bed and looked at pictures of them together. In one, they were at the beach, smiling into the camera, his arm around her waist. In another, they were kissing in his kitchen. So many memories, so much love. How could he throw it all away? She picked up her phone and called Mark, Travis's best friend. "I'm worried about Travis," she said when Mark answered. "Have you talked to him lately, Jodi?" Mark sounded surprised. "I thought you two broke up." "We're taking a break," she lied. "But we're still close. I just haven't heard from him in a few days." Mark hesitated. "He's fine, Jodi. He's moved on. You should too." "Moved on?" Jodi's voice stayed calm even as her hand tightened around the phone. "What do you mean?" "He's seeing someone. It's serious. He's taking her to Mexico." After hanging up, Jodi sat still for a long time. Then she opened her laptop and looked at flights to Arizona. She found one for the next day. Perfect. She packed a small bag. Clothes, the gun, a knife, gloves, her camera. She would need evidence of their last time together, something to remember him by. Before going to bed, she wrote in her journal, Travis doesn't understand what love is. Real love never ends. Real love is forever. I will show him what forever means. The next morning, she drove to the airport. She felt calm, focused, like she did during a photo shoot when everything came together perfectly. She had a job to do. She knew exactly how to do it. On the plane, she closed her eyes and imagined Travis's face when he saw her. Would he be angry? Scared? Would he try to send her away again? It didn't matter. She wasn't leaving this time. Not until she finished what she came to do. While other passengers read magazines or watched movies, Jodi Arias planned a murder. Jodi landed in Arizona on a hot June morning. The rental car was waiting for her at the airport, a plain white sedan that no one would remember. She drove straight to a small motel 20 miles from Travis's home. She paid cash, signed the register with a fake name, and carried her single bag into a room that smelled of cleaning products and old cigarettes. She sent Travis a text message, "I'm in town for a job. Want to meet up?" He didn't answer right away. Jodi sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone. An hour passed, 2 hours. Her anger grew with each minute of silence. Finally, her phone buzzed. Travis had replied, "Not a good time, busy with work." Jodi smiled. She knew he was lying. She had checked his work calendar. He had no meetings today. She texted back, "I have those photos you wanted, the special ones. I can drop them off. Won't stay long." The special photos were their private pictures, the ones that would ruin Travis's clean reputation if his church friends ever saw them. It was a threat wrapped in a friendly offer. 20 minutes later, Travis texted back, "Fine. Come by tonight, 8 p.m. Only for a few minutes." Jodi knew he would agree. Men like Travis always protected their image above all else. She spent the rest of the day preparing. She showered, washed her newly blonde hair, and laid out her clothes carefully, a simple outfit that wouldn't show blood. The gun went into her purse along with the knife she had bought. She packed her camera too. She wanted to remember everything that would happen next. At 7:30, she drove to Travis's neighborhood, but didn't go to his house yet. She parked a few streets away and waited. Her heart beat steadily. Her hands were calm on the steering wheel. At exactly 8 o'clock, she pulled into Travis's driveway. The lights were on inside the house. She checked her appearance in the rearview mirror, pinched her cheeks to add color, and applied fresh lipstick. Then she grabbed her purse and walked to the front door. Travis opened it before she could knock. He looked tired, wary. "Make it quick," he said, stepping aside to let her in. "I have an early morning tomorrow." "You look good," Jodi said, smiling up at him. "I've missed you." "The photos?" he asked, ignoring her comment. "In my purse. But first, can I have some water? It's so hot outside." Travis sighed but led her to the kitchen. As he reached for a glass, Jodi let her eyes wander over his body. Still so handsome. Still so much a part of her, even if he didn't know it. "How's Maria?" she asked casually, watching his back stiffen. "Who told you about Maria? Does it matter? Looking forward to Mexico?" Travis turned, his face hard. "I think you should leave. We haven't looked at the photos yet. Don't you want them? Just leave them. Then go." Jodi stepped closer to him. "Remember the first time we were together? In that hotel room in Las Vegas, you said I was the most amazing woman you'd ever met. That was a long time ago." "Not so long." She reached out to touch his arm. "We can have that again. Just once more before I go." Travis looked at her and Jodi saw the familiar flicker of desire in his eyes. Despite everything, he still wanted her. She moved closer, pressed her body against his. One last time she whispered against his mouth, "For old time's sake." His resistance crumbled. It always did. She knew his weaknesses better than he did himself. Later in his bedroom, Jodi set up her camera on the dresser. "Let me take some pictures," she said, "something to remember you by." Travis agreed, still relaxed from their lovemaking. He had no idea that these would be the last photos ever taken of him alive. No idea that while he smiled for her camera, she was already planning exactly where she would use the knife, where she would fire the gun. No idea that Jodi had come for more than memories. She had come for revenge, and in less than an hour, she would have it. Travis stepped into the shower, water rushing over his body. Jodi stood in the bathroom doorway, watching him through the glass door. Her camera hung around her neck. The last photos she had taken showed Travis lying on his bed, smiling at her, trusting her. Those images were now safely stored on her memory card. "You're not joining me?" Travis called over the sound of the water. "In a minute," Jodi replied, setting the camera down on the bathroom counter. She went back to the bedroom where her purse sat on the floor. From it, she took out the knife and the gun. The knife was bigger, more reliable. The gun would be backup. She slipped the knife into the waistband of her pants, hiding it under her shirt. The gun went into the pocket of her sweatshirt. She returned to the bathroom and began to undress slowly, watching Travis through the shower glass. His eyes were closed as he washed his hair. He had no idea what was coming. Jodi picked up her camera one more time. She wanted to capture this moment too. Travis alive for the last time. The camera clicked. The sound seemed very loud in the small bathroom. Travis opened his eyes, saw her taking pictures. "Stop that," he said, but he was smiling. Jodi set down the camera and opened the shower door. She stepped in, the water immediately soaking her hair, her skin. Travis reached for her, pulled her against him. His mouth found hers. His hands moved over her body. This was it. The last time he would touch her. The last time anyone would touch him. "I love you," she whispered. "I've always loved you." "Jodi," Travis began, but she pressed her fingers to his lips. "Don't say anything, just kiss me again." He did, and as his eyes closed, Jodi reached behind her, feeling for the knife she had left on the edge of the sink, just within reach of the shower door. Her fingers closed around the handle. In one quick motion, she brought it up and drove it into Travis's chest. His eyes flew open in shock and pain. He looked down at the knife, then at Jodi's face. "What?" She pulled the knife out and stabbed again. And again. Blood mixed with water, swirling down the drain in pink streams. Travis tried to push her away, stumbling back against the shower wall. He was strong, even injured. He shoved her hard, knocking her off balance. The knife clattered to the shower floor. Travis fell out of the shower, leaving bloody handprints on the glass door, the walls. He crawled into the bedroom, leaving a trail of red behind him. Jodi followed, picking up the knife. Travis tried to stand but collapsed near the bedroom door. Blood poured from the wounds in his chest. "Why?" he gasped, looking up at her with eyes that were already growing dim. "Because you're mine," Jodi said. "You'll always be mine now." She knelt beside him, knife raised again, but Travis gathered his last strength and kicked her hard. The knife flew from her hand. He started crawling toward the hallway, toward escape. Jodi ran back to the bathroom, grabbed the gun from her sweatshirt pocket. By the time she returned, Travis had made it to the hallway. She raised the gun, aimed it at his back. The shot was loud in the quiet house. Travis jerked, then lay still. Jodi walked closer, nudged him with her foot. No movement, but she wasn't taking chances. She went back for the knife. When she returned, she rolled Travis onto his back. His eyes stared up at nothing. She knelt beside him, raised the knife one last time, and cut his throat from ear to ear. Then she sat back on her heels, breathing hard. It was done. Travis would never go to Mexico with Maria. He would never smile at another woman. He would never leave Jodi again. She looked down at herself. She was covered in blood. It was on her hands, her arms, her face, her hair. She needed to clean up. She needed to leave. In the bathroom, she washed herself in the same shower where minutes before she had been in Travis's arms. The water ran red, then pink, then clear. She dressed quickly in clean clothes from her bag. Before leaving, she looked around the house. Blood was everywhere, on the walls, the carpet, the doors. More than she had expected. She couldn't clean it all. She didn't have time. Instead, she grabbed her camera and her purse. She would take the memory of Travis with her. The rest she would leave behind. Jodi drove away from Travis's house at exactly 10:30 that night. The streets were quiet, empty. No one saw her leave. She drove back to her motel room, her hand steady on the wheel despite what she had just done. Inside her mind, something had changed. A switch had flipped. She felt nothing, no guilt, no regret, just a strange emptiness where her rage had been. At the motel, she packed her few belongings. She would leave Arizona tonight. She dumped the bloody clothes into a garbage bag, tied it tightly, and left it in a dumpster behind a gas station 5 miles away. The knife and gun went into another bag, which she threw into a different dumpster at a rest stop on the highway. She kept only the camera with its memory card full of pictures, the last evidence that she and Travis had been together. She would need those later. By sunrise, Jodi was in Utah, hundreds of miles from the murder scene. She had driven through the night, stopping only for gas. She checked into another motel, paid cash again, and slept for a few hours. When she woke, she called Travis's phone and left a cheerful message. "Hey, it's me. Just wanted to say thanks for last night. Call me when you can." The message would create confusion later, when police found it. It would make them wonder when exactly Travis had died. Jodi continued driving north. She had a plan now. She would visit Ryan, a former boyfriend who lived in West Jordan, Utah. He would be her alibi, proof that she was nowhere near Arizona when Travis was killed. She arrived at Ryan's apartment that afternoon. He was surprised to see her, but not unhappy. They had remained friends after their breakup years before. "Jodi, what are you doing here?" he asked, hugging her. "Just passing through," she said with a smile. "Thought I'd surprise you." They spent the evening catching up. Jodi was careful to take pictures to create memories of her visit that could be verified later. She even convinced Ryan to take her to a work party the next day, where more people would see her, remember her. 2 days later, she left Utah and drove to California to visit friends. Everywhere she went, she made sure people noticed her, took pictures with her, could confirm she had been there. 5 days after killing Travis, Jodi was back home, living her normal life, working at her job, talking to friends. No one suspected anything. She even called Travis's phone again, leaving another message. "Hey, it's me again, getting worried. Call me back, okay?" A week passed. Then Jodi got the call she had been waiting for. It was Mark, Travis's best friend. "Have you heard from Travis?" he asked, his voice tight with worry. "No," Jodi lied. "I've been trying to reach him too." "Why? What's wrong?" "No one's seen him for days. He missed a meeting, doesn't answer his phone. It's not like him." Jodi made her voice shake. "That's not like Travis at all. Do you think something's happened?" Later that day, she got another call. This time, it was a detective from the Mesa Police Department. "Miss Arias? This is Detective Flores. I'm calling about Travis Alexander." "Yes." Jodi's heart beat faster, but her voice remained steady. "Is something wrong?" "I'm sorry to inform you that Mr. Alexander has been found deceased in his home." Jodi gasped, as if shocked. "What? How? What happened?" "We're investigating the circumstances. I understand you and Mr. Alexander were close." "We dated for a while. We're still friends." "I can't believe this." "When was the last time you saw him?" "April." Jodi lied smoothly. "We haven't seen each other in months." "I'll need to ask you some more questions. Would you be willing to come to the station?" "Of course," Jodi said. "Anything to help. Travis was special to me." As she hung up the phone, Jodi allowed herself a small smile. The police had no reason to suspect her. She had been careful. The bloody scene she left behind would tell them a random killer had broken in. A robbery gone wrong, perhaps. They would never connect it to the blonde woman who had been hundreds of miles away when the body was found. Jodi went to her bedroom mirror and practiced looking sad, devastated by the news. She would need to convince everyone of her grief. The police would have questions, but Jodi had answers. She always had answers. Detective Flores sat across from Jodi in the small interview room. A camera recorded everything. Jodi had dressed carefully for this meeting, conservative clothes, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. She looked sad but composed. the perfect grieving ex-girlfriend. Thank you for coming in, Miss Arias, Flores said. We just have some routine questions. Jodi nodded, her eyes downcast. I want to help find whoever did this to Travis. The detective opened a folder. Can you tell me about your relationship with Travis Alexander? We dated for about 5 months. We broke up last June, but stayed friends. And when was the last time you saw him? In April. I was passing through on my way to Utah. Flores wrote something down. We found your hair at the crime scene. Long strands. Can you explain that? Jodi didn't hesitate. Like I said, I visited in April. I have long hair. It gets everywhere. We also found your fingerprints. I touched things when I visited. That's normal, right? For an hour, the questions continued. Jodi had an answer for everything. She never changed her story. She never showed anger. She cried at all the right moments. After she left the police station, Jodi felt confident. They had nothing solid. Just hair, fingerprints, things that could have been there from her April visit. What she didn't know was that the police had found the camera. The camera she had accidentally knocked into the washing machine during her cleanup. The camera with the memory card still inside. The memory card with time-stamped photos of Travis alive on the day of his murder, and photos of Jodi in his bed just hours before he died. 2 weeks after her police interview, Jodi was shopping for groceries when her phone rang. Detective Flores again. We need you to come back in, Miss Arias. We have some new questions. Jodi felt the first flicker of real fear. What kind of questions? It's better if we discuss it in person. When she arrived at the station, Flores didn't take her to the interview room. Instead, he led her to a different room, where another detective waited with handcuffs. Jodi Arias, you're under arrest for the murder of Travis Alexander. Jodi's mind raced. The camera. It had to be the camera. But she kept her face calm as they read her rights, took her fingerprints, her mugshot. She said nothing without a lawyer. News of her arrest spread quickly. Newspapers printed her photo. TV shows talked about the photographer who killed her ex-boyfriend. People who had never met her or Travis suddenly had opinions about them both. In jail, Jodi decided on a new story. Not the April visit lie, that was clearly not working. Not the truth either. Never the truth. Instead, she told her lawyer that 2 masked intruders had broken into Travis's house while she was there. They had killed Travis and threatened to kill her family if she ever told anyone. The lawyer looked skeptical but wrote it down. As the months passed and evidence mounted, Jodi changed her story one last time. Yes, she had killed Travis, she admitted, but it was self-defense. He had attacked her. She had no choice. The trial began more than 4 years after Travis's death. Jodi took the stand and spoke for 18 days. She described a Travis that his friends didn't recognize. Violent, abusive, dangerous. She cried when she described killing him in self-defense. But the photos told a different story. The medical examiner described 27 stab wounds, a cut throat, a gunshot to the head. The jury saw pictures of Travis's bathroom, his bedroom, the hallway, all covered in blood. This was not self-defense, the prosecutor told the jury. This was a jealous woman who couldn't have the man she wanted, so she made sure no one else could either. After 5 months of testimony, the jury found Jodi Arias guilty of first-degree murder. As they led her from the courtroom, a reporter shouted, "Do you regret what you did?" Jodi turned, her face blank. "The only thing I regret," she said, "is getting caught." In her cell that night, Jodi looked at the small mirror on the wall. The face that looked back was older now, harder. The judge would decide her sentence soon. Life in prison or death. But in a strange way, Jodi had gotten what she wanted. Travis would never be with anyone else. And she would be famous forever, her name always linked with his. In death, he belonged to her in a way he never had in life. It wasn't the ending she had planned, but it was an ending she could live with.